It was certainly a packed house today inside Neyland Stadium for Tennessee's orange and white game, but the spring game not talking too much about what happened on the field, instead who wasn't on the field. And Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback, departing from Rocky Top earlier this week with little to no communication with his head coach, with his teammates, and how the team is responding and moving forward from that. Josh Heupel really highlighted today and revealed some details about what those last conversations with Nico were like, what those last hours with Nico were like. Paige Dower alongside Jimmy Himes, just listening to Heupel. Jimmy, kind of what's your initial takeaway hearing some of those details?
Well, it's a stunning development that Nico has left the program, and you started getting wind of that. But as Josh Heupel said, when your quarterback doesn't show up for practice on Friday, you can't get in touch with him. He knew the die was cast in. He knew that Nico wasn't going to be around. Most of this centers around, in my opinion, the father trying to renegotiate the deal for Nico, trying to get $4 million a year, which is what some other quarterbacks have gotten. The guy that went to Miami, the guy that went to Duke. And so he's trying to renegotiate the deal. Tennessee's paying Nico somewhere around $2.4, $2.7 million a year. And Tennessee said, no, we're not going to renegotiate this. You already have a deal, not binding, but you got a deal. And so when Nico didn't show, he was at the quarterback dinner the night before on Thursday. The quarterbacks had no inkling that Nico was going to be a no-show, so he doesn't practice. That basically was it. And so Miles Kitselman, Tennessee tight end, said that he kind of, now he's on the injured list, but he was looking around to make sure the players were invested in practice, not gossiping, not talking about what was going on. And this is a group that Miles Kitselman said, this is a team. There are no individuals on this team, and so he feels good about this team being able to rally in the absence of Nico.
You could really tell, too, that Miles Kitselman really tailored what he wanted to say. You could see just in the way that he was holding himself during the press conference that there was so much more that he probably wanted to say that did not need to be aired out with the media live for all of us to see. But again, the individuals, he's looking around on practice on Friday, and essentially it's like, no one blinked, no one skipped a beat. We're ready to go. We're ready to compete with the guys that are here. He's, telling us about how he's excited with this team. He's excited for the group that they have coming forward. And even George McIntyre and Jake Merklinger were even talking about how important it is to have a leader like Miles Kitselman on the offense, because those are two young quarterbacks. And I know you mentioned Jake and how he prepares like he's the number one. That's the thing that Gaston Moore really taught him. I put that over on our Twitter page, and I think that really helped him prepare for this situation, because it's a lot different though, Jimmy. I mean, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm going to prepare like I'm the number one. You're the number one now. Like, you need to be operating as such, and it's such an interesting time for the team, but I do think they have responded the right way, and like they say, like they've not skipped a beat. As weird as the spring game was, like they looked pretty focused out there. Well,
and it's early, so you just got a spring game, so you don't skip a beat now. What happens in the fall? Tennessee is going to try to find another quarterback in the portal. Josh Heupel said that. Is it a quarterback that they're looking to start over Merklinger? Is it a quarterback that they're looking to compete with Merklinger? Is it a quarterback just because you need depth? You only have 2 scholarship quarterbacks. You got no walk-on quarterbacks, so you need another quarterback in the room. Now, from Tennessee's perspective, they would love to get somebody that would compete with Merklinger or be even better. Now, can you find that person? We don't know. April 16th is when the portal opens, and but you can bet Tennessee's kind of scouring around, looking around saying, I wonder if that quarterback or this quarterback might be interested in coming here if we can make the deal the way it needs to be. But look, let's not make no mistake. This is a blow to Tennessee. I believe Tennessee is a better team in the fall with Nico Iamaleava. Without him, how many losses does that translate to? I don't know. That's hard to predict. But I do think this is a team that will rally around the quarterbacks that they have. But even if you rally around those quarterbacks, if there's not as good as the guy that left, that still might make it hard to get to what Tennessee would hope to be, at least I would think, that 8 or 9 or 10 win plateau.
And Arion Carter kind of had an interesting take too, and it's one that probably sounds a lot like the mindset that Tennessee basketball had. This is all we got, and this is all we need. And that, and that took them at least to the Elite Eight. So
you know what that reminded me of? Jemai Mashack, before Tennessee played Florida in men's basketball, did not have 2 key players, Zakai Ziegler and Igor Milicic. And the message that came from Mashack is, we have enough. And I think that's kind of what Kitselman was saying. We have enough. We have talent on this team. We are good enough. Look, I think Tennessee defensively is good enough to be able to compete at a high level. Offensively, I've got my doubts, and it's not just a quarterback. I think when you lose 4 starters on the offensive line, that's going to be a challenge. When you lose some of the receivers that you lost, that's going to be a challenge. So we'll see if how much they're able to overcome. But the transfer portal, it's going to be interesting to see where Tennessee goes. Not just seeking a quarterback, but are they going to try to find another big-time receiver?
Yeah.
Are they going to try to find another offensive lineman that could be a potential starter? So there's a lot that could go on with Tennessee in the transfer portal when it opens April 16th.
I wonder if this puts interesting stress onto the offensive side, especially because we know Mike Matthews was certainly someone that we talked about in the offseason, if he was going to stay, if he was going to go, and your number 1 quarterback leaves, that's worth millions of dollars. Like Arian Carter kind of talked about, we got to keep the eyes on ourselves. Like the guys who want to be here are the guys that we want to be here. Yeah. Are you worried that this is going to start some type of mass exodus for Tennessee football, or do you think Heupel has been able to rally the troops and they're all kind of locked in with the group that they've got?
It's a good question, and to say we want players that want to be here, well, are there some that don't want to be here?
Yeah.
Are there some that look at what Nico did and say, you know what, I'd kind of like to renegotiate my deal too? From Tennessee's perspective, and I do want to get into this, I don't blame Tennessee at all.
Right.
Because if you cave in and you say, okay, we're going to give you $4 million, and by the way, Nico has not earned $4 million. He is not a $4 million quarterback. He wasn't last year. Could he eventually get into that realm? Maybe so. But Tennessee paid him awfully well to not do a whole lot. So if you've got other players on the team that think, hey, wait a minute, I need to reset the market for myself, then you might have a problem with the other players. So if Tennessee said no to Nico, but if they had said yes, would there be 30, 35 players? A bunch of them saying, well, let's renegotiate my deal too. So I agree with Tennessee's stance, and I put the blame either on Nico or Nico's dad, one of the two. I defend Tennessee on this, and I'm not one of these that says, well, I don't blame Nico for going after more money. Look, you agreed to a contract. Honor your contract. I know it's not binding, but by golly, honor it. And he didn't do it, his dad didn't do it, so I'm putting the blame on them. And you know who else is putting the blame on them? Social media. Yes. The Vol Nation. They're in very much support of what Tennessee did, and so am I.
And Josh Heupel says he would not be surprised. He says, I've been here long enough to know that Vol Nation really will support them. Like whoever wants to wear the power tee proudly is who they're going to appreciate. And even after the tweet that we put out about Jake Merklinger preparing like the number 1, a lot of the comments really were, or even on our YouTube shorts, were really about, all right, we're ready to cheer you on. We're going to go to the orange and white game now because you're there. And I think that's something really positive, because while the team says that they're not really on social media right now, which probably is for the best, it's good to see that the temperature in the room is one that is supportive of the university, of the guys that are still here, and a really dicey and tough decision that Heupel and company had to make.
I'm not going to say that history will repeat itself, but I am reminded that there have been a couple of times that I know of where Tennessee really rallied around a quarterback. One of them occurred in 1998 because Tennessee lost Peyton Manning, a first-round draft pick. T. Martin comes in. T. Martin is not as talented or the quarterback that Peyton Manning was. But that team rallied around T. Martin, and guess what? They won a national championship. I'll go back even further, 1985. Tony Robinson is a great quarterback, having a great year. He gets hurt at mid-year against Alabama. Darrell Dickey, who's 24 years old, hadn't played a snap. He comes in as the quarterback. They rallied around him, and Tennessee not only won the SEC, but they beat the heck out of Miami in the Sugar Bowl. So could this team rally around whichever guy's the quarterback at Tennessee with Nico gone? Potentially. Right now, maybe it's hard for some folks to see that, but I do think this team has – look, and I'll say this too. I didn't think Tennessee was a college football playoff team with Nico. I know others might have. I didn't. But with Nico, I thought your ceiling was 9 or 10 wins, but I predicted them to win 8.
Yeah.
Because I think there are 3 games they're going to lose, and then there's one they usually get upset along the way. So with Merklinger, what do they win? I don't know, 6, 8. Could they get to that number? That's hard to say.
Yeah, I think it'd be a nice season to get to 8.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too under the circumstances. So, but no, I wasn't that bullish on this team either with Nico. Others may have been, but I was not.
It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on 4th down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.
Even though Nico has taken a lot of attention from what was happening on the spring game kind of modified a little bit because of lack of certain numbers, such as the quarterback room. There were a couple of people who really did impress in this game, such as the tight end who caught a trio of touchdowns today.
Yeah, and I got to look it up because I know I'll screw up his name. Jake Van Dorselaer. He's a freshman.
That pretty soon, yes.
3 touchdown receptions
4-star too, I think.
for him. Yeah, so very good. By the way, they got another good tight end named Brom, but Dorselaer stole the show with his 3 touchdown receptions. And the other one that stood out to me was Rodarius Jackson.
Yes,
he is a true freshman. He made a touchdown catch in the south end zone. Then he made a brilliant one-handed reception in the northeast corner on the 4-yard line.
Yeah,
That was a remarkable play. Very talented receiver that looks good, and maybe he's the guy that can step in right away and play and make a huge impact.
One other thing to note with the quarterbacks is I really like from Jake Merklinger is while maybe he's not getting the touchdown passes that McIntyre was able to get, I like that he was comfortable and scrambling when plays were breaking down. I thought that showed some really good IQ to recognize when the play and the receiver is just not there.
Yeah.
So I liked that mobility aspect of him in that moment.
I think he's every bit as good a runner as Nico.
Yeah, he showed it.
And we'll see it. I also think McIntyre's a pretty good runner too, but he is rail thin. he has got to put on some weight, no doubt about that. I do think these young quarterbacks have a lot of ability. They don't have the experience, though. And that's going to be the big challenge, and you only get experience by playing, so we'll see how they do. And Tennessee's got to open up against a pretty good Syracuse team.
Yes, yeah.
That's not going to be easy. Syracuse was, they won 9 games last year, maybe 10?
So they were in contention late. They caused some chaos for the playoff rankings a year ago. So
that's a tough opener for Tennessee, but I think Tennessee is going to probably struggle a little bit offensively without Nico. I thought they'd struggle anyway.
Yeah.
How much, we'll find out. But
they say just don't have 3 straight games of scoreless first half and we'll be fine.
Yeah, they got to avoid that, don't
the
they?
bar is low, so I think we'll be fine. But a lot of exciting things happening here for Tennessee, a lot that will continue to develop throughout the week, which I'm sure we'll have some more conversations on that coming up on our YouTube channel at Full Disclosure Pro, which is where you're listening now. We had a conversation with Deshaun Bishop and kind of the season he hopes he has now that he is a scholarship player. So should be a very interesting season. And of course, go back on the homepage too to listen to Jimmy Himes and Burt Bertelkamp talking about his playing days, Vols over Vandy.
Yeah, and Burt was great. We asked him a number of questions. We talked about Holly Warlick. We talked about who's the greatest player in Tennessee men's basketball history. Burt played with that guy, and some other, and the visit that he made to the school that his dad cringed when he visited them. You can go anywhere you want, but that school, what are you thinking?
Awesome. Well, we'll be back later this week. We'll talk to you guys then.